I arrived at the office at 6:30 a.m., like I did every Monday. The building was quiet, the hallways empty except for the hum of the heating system. I loved these early mornings. They gave me time to prepare for the week ahead, to review our projects without distractions, to drink my coffee in peace before the chaos began. I was the lead engineer managing our biggest contract, a $20 million cybersecurity file that kept our company afloat. 6 years I'd worked here. 6 years of late nights, weekend debugging sessions, and slowly building something I was genuinely proud of. This project was my baby. Every line of code, every security protocol, every backup system, I designed it all. When I reached my office door, I noticed it was already open. That was strange. I always locked it when I left, triple-checking out of habit. My heart started racing as I pushed the door wider, my coffee nearly slipping from my hand. Someone was sitting in my chair. Kaysen, the new boss's son. His feet were propped up on my desk, expensive sneakers leaving marks on the wood surface. He was scrolling through his phone like he owned the place, which technically, his father did now after buying majority shares 3 months ago. But this was my office, my workspace, my domain. What are you doing here? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady even though my pulse was hammering. He looked up slowly, a smirk spreading across his face, the kind of smirk that made my stomach turn. Oh good, you're here. We need to talk about some changes. Changes? What changes? I felt my stomach drop like an elevator with cut cables. Kaysen swung his feet off my desk and stood up, stretching like he'd just woken from a comfortable nap. You're being reassigned. Don't worry, it's not personal. We just need someone else in this position. Someone with fresh perspective. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My hands tightened around my coffee cup. Reassigned? I've been with this company for 6 years. I built this department from nothing. Yeah, and we appreciate that. Really. But things change. Companies evolve. He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. I'm in the middle of our biggest contract, I said, my voice shaking now, not with sadness, but with anger. The $20 million cybersecurity project. Who's going to manage it? The client presentation is in 2 weeks. Kaysen's smirk grew wider, and he gestured toward the door. Oh, don't worry about that. My best friend Troy is taking over. He's got great experience. Really smart guy. You'll love him. As if on cue, a guy I'd never seen before walked into my office. He was tall, wearing an expensive suit that looked completely out of place in our tech company where most people wore hoodies and jeans. Troy had the same cocky attitude as Kaysen, that entitled swagger that made me instantly dislike him. He looked around my office like he was inspecting a hotel room, picking up my awards and setting them down without care. Troy, meet. Kaysen paused, pretending to forget my name even though we'd been introduced at 3 company meetings. Sorry. What was it again? I ignored him and turned to Troy, trying to assess this person who was apparently stealing my job. Have you ever managed a cybersecurity project before? Troy laughed, actually laughed, like I'd told a joke. How hard can it be? It's just files and computers, right? Click here, type there. I've been working with computers since I was a kid. My blood ran cold. He had absolutely no idea what he was doing. This wasn't some entry-level position you could fake your way through. This isn't just files, I said firmly, setting my coffee down before I threw it. This is a $20 million contract with the Department of Defense. One mistake could destroy everything. We're talking about national security protocols, encrypted databases, fail-safe systems. One wrong click could... Relax, Kaysen interrupted, waving his hand dismissively. Troy's smart. He'll figure it out. You'll train him for a few days, then move to your new position in... What was it? User support. User support. After 6 years as lead engineer, they were demoting me to answering password reset tickets. I wanted to argue more, to fight back, but Troy was already walking over to my computer. Kason, show me how to access the main file. I want to see what all the fuss is about. My chest tightened. Wait, you can't just... It's fine, Kason interrupted, pulling out his phone. I have admin access now. Dad gave it to me last week as part of my new role as operations director. Operations director. Kason, who'd never worked a real job in his life, who'd failed out of 2 colleges, who everyone knew was only here because of his father, he had admin access to our most sensitive systems. He leaned over Troy's shoulder and started typing passwords into my computer. Within seconds, they were inside my system. Inside the $20 million file that had taken 3 years to build. Troy clicked around carelessly, opening folders and closing them like he was browsing vacation photos. So this is the big project everyone talks about? Looks pretty simple to me. Just a bunch of folders and documents. Don't touch anything, I warned, moving closer. That file has thousands of connected documents. Every folder is linked to security protocols. If you delete something, it could corrupt the entire system. There are dependencies, backup chains, encryption keys. But Troy wasn't listening. He kept clicking, dragging files around randomly, reorganizing folders without understanding what they contained. Maybe we should consolidate these, he muttered. Make it more efficient. Less cluttered. No. Don't reorganize anything. The structure is intentional. Then it happened. His cursor hovered over a button labeled Delete All Project Files. Wait! I lunged forward, but I was too far away. Troy clicked it. A confirmation box appeared on the screen. Are you sure you want to permanently delete this project? This action cannot be undone. Troy, don't. He clicked yes. For a moment, everything was silent. The 3 of us just stared at the screen as folders began disappearing one by one. The main directory, the backup folders, the client files, the security protocols. Years of work, millions of dollars in contracts, security systems that took months to develop, all vanishing in real time. A progress bar appeared, deleting 47,392 files. What did you just do? I whispered, unable to look away from the screen. Troy's face went pale, his cocky expression melting into panic. I didn't mean to. I thought it was just... You deleted the entire project. I shouted, not caring who heard me. That was 3 years of work. The $20 million Defense Department contract. Everything. Can't you just undo it? Troy's voice cracked. Like Control-Z or something? It's not a Word document. There's no undo for permanent deletion. My hands were shaking. I couldn't breathe. 3 years of my life. Gone in seconds. Kason spun toward me, and I saw something shift in his expression. The shock was there, yes, but underneath it was something else. Something calculated. Something cold and dangerous. This is bad, he said quietly, his mind clearly working. Then louder, this is really bad. Troy, get out of that chair. Now. Troy scrambled up, looking like he might throw up. Kason, I swear I didn't mean to. Shut up, Kason snapped. Then he turned to me with those cold eyes. You need to fix this. Right now. Me? I wasn't even at the computer. Your friend just... I don't care what happened. You're the lead engineer. This is your project, your computer, your responsibility. The file was deleted under your credentials. He stepped closer, invading my space. Fix this, or I'll make sure everyone thinks you did it on purpose. My mouth went dry. Was he seriously threatening me? After watching his incompetent friend destroy everything? You both watched him delete it, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You were standing right here. Kaysen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. No humanity. That's not how anyone else will see it. Who do you think they'll believe? The boss's son trying to learn the system? Or the angry employee who just got demoted? The words hit me like a punch. He was right. I was the one who'd been upset about the reassignment. I was the one with motive. And the deletion happened on my computer, under my login. You can't do this, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to my own ears. Watch me. He pulled out his phone. I need to report this immediately. There's been a major security breach. Dad needs to know. A breach? You're the one who gave him my password. But Kaysen was already walking toward the door, Troy following close behind like a scared puppy. At the doorway, Kaysen turned back. I suggest you start thinking about how you're going to explain this. HR will want answers. They left, and I stood alone in my office, staring at the empty folders on my screen. The progress bar had finished. Deletion complete. 47,392 files removed. My legs felt weak. I sank into my chair, the chair Troy had been sitting in minutes ago, and tried to process what just happened. They deleted my project. They blamed me. And Kaysen was about to report it to the entire company. But something felt wrong about all of this. The way Kaysen recovered so quickly from shock. The way he immediately knew to blame me. The threat about making everyone think I did it on purpose. This felt planned. My hands were still shaking as I tried to think clearly. I needed proof. I needed evidence that this wasn't my fault. Otherwise, my career was over. I quickly logged into our backup server using my private credentials, ones that Kaysen didn't know about. I had set up an emergency logging system 8 months ago, something that tracked every action on the main project file. It was my insurance policy against exactly this kind of disaster. If Troy really did delete everything, there would be a detailed record. Timestamps, device IDs, user credentials, everything. I pulled up the logs and started scanning through them, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Lines of data scrolled past. Login attempts, file accesses, system changes. Then I found it. The deletion command. Timestamped at 6:47 a.m. Just minutes ago. But something was wrong. Something that made my blood turn to ice. The log showed my username as the one who initiated the deletion. That was impossible. I wasn't even at my computer. I was standing 3 feet away, watching Troy click that button. Unless someone had stolen my credentials and used them to log in. That would make it look like I deleted the files, even though Troy was the one physically clicking the mouse. I dug deeper into the logs, looking for anything unusual. And there it was, hidden in the authentication records. At 6:20 a.m., my credentials had been accessed from the admin control panel. Someone with high-level access had pulled my username and password, then deployed them to another device. Only 3 people had admin access: the IT manager, the security director, and as of last week, Kaysen. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop looking at those logs. You're only making this worse for yourself. I stared at the message. How did they know what I was doing? Was someone watching me right now? Another text. Accept the consequences. Walk away quietly. Trust me, it's better for everyone. Instead of responding, I took screenshots of everything. The logs, the authentication records, the credential theft. I saved them to 3 different cloud accounts and emailed copies to myself and to my personal backup server at home. Then I noticed something else in the data. Something that made everything click into place. The deletion didn't start at 6:47 a.m. That's when it finished. According to the detailed timestamp, the deletion command was initiated at 6:37 a.m., 10 minutes before Kaysen announced I was being reassigned. 10 minutes before I even walked into my office and found him sitting at my desk. This wasn't a random accident. This wasn't Troy being careless. This was a carefully planned attack, timed to happen exactly when I arrived, so they could blame me in real time. But why? What did Kaysen gain from destroying the company's most valuable project? I kept digging through the logs, going back further, and I found something that made my hands freeze over the keyboard. At 6:15 a.m., before any of this started, there was a remote access attempt. Someone tried to access the $20 million file from outside the building, from an IP address I didn't recognize. The attempt was blocked by our firewall. So they tried a different approach. They used Kaysen's admin access to steal my credentials at 6:20 a.m. Then they deployed those credentials to Troy's device at 6:32 a.m. At 6:37 a.m., Troy logged into my system using my stolen credentials and initiated the deletion. At 6:47 a.m., the deletion completed. At 6:48 a.m., I walked into my office. This was a setup from the beginning. Every step was planned, and I had been the target all along. An hour later, I was sitting in a conference room surrounded by people. HR representatives, executives, the new boss, Kaysen's father, and Kaysen himself, looking concerned and professional like he actually cared about what happened. Troy sat in the corner, arms crossed, avoiding eye contact with everyone. He looked nervous, guilty. The HR director, a stern woman named Ms. Patterson, looked at her notes. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. The $20 million cybersecurity project, our contract with the Defense Department, was deleted this morning. Yes, Kaysen said solemnly, playing his role perfectly. I discovered it when I came in early to review the project files. I immediately tried to access the main directory, but everything was gone. That's when I called this emergency meeting. Discovered it. He stood there and watched Troy do it. I bit my tongue, forcing myself to stay calm. Getting emotional would only make me look guilty. And according to the system logs, Ms. Patterson continued, the deletion was performed using her credentials. She pointed at me. Every head in the room turned my direction. I felt the weight of their judgment, their suspicion. That's not accurate, I said, choosing my words carefully. Someone used my credentials, yes, but I wasn't the one who deleted the files. Kaysen and Troy were in my office. Troy was at my computer when the deletion happened. Kaysen shook his head sadly, like I was a child telling an obvious lie. I was just showing Troy the office space as part of his orientation. We didn't touch your computer. We left before any deletion occurred. That's not true. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly. You gave Troy my password. He sat at my desk and deleted everything right in front of me. Troy. Ms. Patterson looked at him. Is this accurate? Troy seemed to shrink in his chair. For a moment, I thought he might tell the truth. But then he shrugged, putting on a confused expression. I barely touched anything. She was showing me around, pointing at her screen. I wouldn't even know how to delete a whole project. I'm not that technical. The lie was smooth, practiced. They had rehearsed this. This is ridiculous, I said, hearing the desperation in my own voice. Check the security cameras. They'll show both of them in my office at 6:47 a.m. The cameras in that hallway have been malfunctioning for 2 weeks, the security director said apologetically. We've been waiting for replacements. Of course they had. How convenient. Pull up the deletion report, Mr. Brennan, Kaysen's father said. Let's see exactly what happened. The IT manager, a quiet guy named Derek, connected his laptop to the screen. Within seconds, a detailed report appeared on the wall, and my stomach dropped. Time, 6:47 a.m. User. My username, action. Delete all project files status. Permanent deletion device. Workstation, 2447. As you can see, Derek explained, the deletion came from her account, from her assigned workstation. I felt the room turn against me. I could see it in their eyes. They believed I was responsible. Why wouldn't they? The evidence was right there on the screen. This doesn't make sense, I said, trying to control the tremor in my voice. Why would I delete my own project? 3 years of work. Why would I destroy the thing I've dedicated my entire career to building? That's what we're trying to understand, Mr. Brennan said. He looked tired, disappointed. You've been vocal about your unhappiness with the recent organizational changes. The reassignment. The new management structure. Maybe this was your way of protesting. Or maybe you wanted to ensure no one else could succeed with your project. What? No. That's insane. I would never. The evidence is clear, Kaysen interrupted, his voice dripping with false sympathy. Your username. Your computer. Your project. I'm sorry, but we need to take action to protect the company. Ms. Patterson nodded, already writing notes. We're placing you on immediate suspension pending full investigation. You'll need to surrender your access credentials, your badge, and your company devices. Security will escort you from the building. Wait, I said, my mind racing. Check the device ID. Every computer has a unique identifier. If I didn't delete the files, the device ID will be different from my assigned workstation. Derek looked uncomfortable, glancing at Kaysen. We can check that, but it will take some time to pull those records. Then check it, I demanded, slamming my hand on the table. I'm not leaving until you verify the device ID. If you're going to suspend me, at least make sure you have the right person. Mr. Brennan nodded slowly. Fine. Derek, pull the device information. Let's be thorough. 20 minutes of tense silence followed. The only sound was Derek typing on his laptop, occasionally muttering to himself. Kaysen kept checking his phone, looking increasingly uncomfortable. Troy stared at the floor. I stood near the window, watching the parking lot below. Employees were arriving for the workday, completely unaware that the company's biggest project had just been destroyed. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. Leave now. Don't make this worse. I ignored it. Here, Derek finally said, pointing at his screen. I found the device information. The deletion command came from device ID 7743. That's... He checked his records, and his face changed. That's not her workstation. Her device ID is 5521. The room erupted in whispers. Several board members leaned forward. Then whose device is it? Mr. Brennan asked, his voice sharp now. Derek clicked through more files. Device 7743 is registered to. He paused, looking genuinely shocked. It's registered to Troy Bennett. Everyone turned to look at Troy. His face went from pale to bright red in seconds. That's impossible, he stammered, sitting up straight. I couldn't have. I don't even know how to. The logs don't lie, Derek said, pulling up more data. Device 7743 accessed the project file at 6:37 a.m. using her credentials. The deletion command was initiated from that device. But I saw something else in the report. Something that confirmed my worst suspicions. Derek, I said, moving closer to the screen. What time did the deletion actually start? Not when it finished, when it began. He scrolled through the detailed logs. According to this, the deletion command was initiated at 6:37 a.m. It finished at 6:47 a.m. 6:37 a.m., I repeated, turning to face everyone in the room. That's 10 minutes before Kaysen announced I was being reassigned. 10 minutes before I even found them in my office. The room went silent. So, Kaysen said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. What's your point? My point is that this wasn't a random accident. You didn't just show Troy my office and he accidentally deleted something. This was planned. You stole my credentials, gave them to Troy, and executed a deletion while making sure I would walk in at exactly the right moment to witness it and get blamed. That's a serious accusation, Ms. Patterson said. And I can prove it. I pulled out my phone and opened my cloud storage. I have access to emergency backup logs that track all credential access. At 6:20 a.m., before any of this happened, my credentials were accessed from the admin control panel. Only 3 people have that level of access. I looked directly at Kaysen. And you're one of them. Kaysen laughed, but it sounded forced. You're grasping at straws. Maybe the IT manager accessed your credentials for maintenance. Maybe there was a security audit. There are dozens of legitimate reasons. Then explain the remote access attempt, I said, pulling up more screenshots. At 6:15 a.m., someone tried to access the $20 million file from outside the building. The firewall blocked it. 5 minutes later, my credentials were pulled from the admin panel. Another 12 minutes later, those credentials were used on Troy's device to delete everything. Derek's eyes widened. That's a coordinated attack. That's not an accident. Mr. Brennan stood up, his face red. Derek, I want a complete forensic analysis. Every login, every file access, every credential pull for the past week. And I want it done by an external firm. No internal bias. Dad, this is ridiculous, Kaysen started. Be quiet, his father snapped. If these allegations are true, this is corporate sabotage. Criminal activity. They're not true. Kaysen's composure was cracking now. She's trying to cover her own mistakes by throwing wild accusations around. This is exactly what guilty people do. Then you won't mind surrendering your devices for examination, Ms. Patterson said. If you're innocent, the forensic analysis will prove it. Kaysen's jaw tightened. Fine. Whatever. But I'm telling you, you're wasting time and money chasing a conspiracy theory. We'll see, Mr. Brennan said. He turned to me. You're still suspended pending investigation, but we won't escort you out yet. Derek, I want preliminary findings by end of day. Use whatever resources you need. The meeting ended, but as everyone filed out, Troy remained in his chair, looking like he might pass out. When the room was almost empty, he suddenly stood up. I need to talk to my lawyer, he mumbled, heading for the door. Your lawyer. Kaysen grabbed his arm. Why would you need a lawyer? We didn't do anything wrong. I think I should talk to someone. This is getting serious. Kaysen's eyes flashed with something dangerous. Troy, don't do anything stupid. We're fine. Everything is fine. But Troy pulled away and practically ran from the room. I watched this exchange with growing certainty. Troy was the weak link. He was scared, probably realizing the magnitude of what they'd done. And scared people make mistakes. As I left the conference room, I noticed a young guy standing in the hallway, pretending to check his phone. It was Mateo, one of the junior developers I'd worked with on a few projects. He was good, smart, detail-oriented, and from what I'd seen, genuinely ethical. He caught my eye and gave a slight nod toward the emergency stairwell. I followed at a distance, making sure no one was watching. In the stairwell, Mateo was pacing nervously. I heard what happened. The whole company is talking about it. Of course they are, I said bitterly. But I don't think you did it, he said quickly. I was here late last night, working on the database migration. Around 11 p.m., I heard Kaysen and Troy in one of the conference rooms. They didn't know anyone else was here. My heart started racing. What were they saying? I couldn't hear everything, but Troy sounded really stressed. He kept saying, "I don't want to do this," and "What if something goes wrong?" Kaysen kept telling him it would be fine, that it was necessary, that they'd both come out ahead. Did you hear what it was? No. But it was clearly something serious. Troy was almost yelling at one point, saying, "This is illegal," or something like that. Kaysen got really quiet and cold. He said something like, "We're past the point of backing out. You're either with me or against me." This was it. This was proof that they planned something before the deletion happened. Would you be willing to testify to that? I asked. Mateo hesitated, fear crossing his face. Kaysen's father owns the company now. If I go against his son, I could lose my job. If you don't, an innocent person loses theirs. And whoever did this gets away with destroying our biggest project. He was quiet for a long moment, wrestling with the decision. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a USB drive. "There's something else," Mateo said, pressing the USB drive into my hand. After I heard them talking, I got worried. I know Troy's not qualified for your position. Everyone knows that. So I set up a monitoring script to log any unusual activity on the main project file. Just in case. You created a backup log? Sort of. It's a crash log that captures system events. If someone accessed the project file in an unusual way, my script would record it. I know I probably shouldn't have done it without authorization, but... Mateo, this could save my career. What's on it? I haven't looked at it yet. I pulled it from the server this morning before Derek locked everything down. But if Troy accessed your files using stolen credentials, it should be in there. Device IDs, timestamps, commands executed, everything. I clutched the USB drive like it was made of gold. Thank you. Seriously. Thank you. There's one more thing, Mateo said, looking around nervously. I overheard something else last night. Kaysen was on the phone with someone. Not Troy, someone else. He mentioned something about a delivery and how they were ready to receive the package once the obstacle is removed. Obstacle? What obstacle? I think he meant you. And the package. I think he might be planning to sell the project data to someone. That's when it all clicked. The remote access attempt. The credential theft. The planned deletion. Kaysen wasn't just trying to get rid of me, he was trying to steal the project and sell it. Who else knows about this? I asked. Just you. I wanted to make sure I had something solid before going to HR. But now with the deletion and everything. He trailed off, looking scared. Don't tell anyone else yet, I said. Not until we know what's on this drive. If Kaysen finds out you're helping me. I know. I'll be careful. After Mateo left, I sat in the stairwell for a few minutes, trying to process everything. My phone buzzed again, another text from the unknown number. I know you talked to Mateo. Leave him out of this. Last warning. They were watching me. Either through security cameras or someone was physically following me. Either way, I wasn't safe here. I left through the back entrance and drove home, constantly checking my rearview mirror for anyone following. My apartment was a small one-bedroom in an older building, but it had good internet and, more importantly, it was private. I locked the door, closed all the blinds, and plugged Mateo's USB drive into my laptop. The crash log was extensive. Hundreds of entries spanning the last 24 hours. I filtered it to show only activity related to the $20 million project file. And there it was, laid out in undeniable detail. 6:15 a.m., remote access attempt from IP47.183.22.109, blocked by firewall. 6:20 a.m. Admin credentials used to access user credential database. 6:20 a.m. User credentials retrieved. My username. 6:32 a.m. Credentials deployed to device ID 7743, Troy's laptop. 6:37 a.m. Device 7743 accessed project file using deployed credentials. 6:37 a.m. Delete command initiated on project file. 6:47 a.m. Deletion completed. 47,392 files removed. But there was more. The log showed that during those 10 minutes while the deletion was running, someone accessed specific subdirectories first. Not randomly, they went straight to the encryption keys, the client database, and the source code. They copied those files to an external drive before deleting everything else. This wasn't just sabotage. It was theft. Kaysen had stolen the most valuable parts of the project before destroying the rest. And now he had everything he needed to sell our security protocols to a competitor. I needed to figure out where that remote access attempt came from. I ran the IP address through several tracking tools. It belonged to a commercial internet cafe in downtown, the kind of place where you could pay cash and browse anonymously. Dead end. But then I had another idea. If Kaysen was planning to sell the project data, he must have been communicating with potential buyers. There would be emails, messages, something. I didn't have access to Kaysen's email, but I had access to the company's network logs. As lead engineer, I had set up monitoring for suspicious outbound data transfers, a security measure to prevent leaks. I logged into the monitoring system using my personal backup credentials and started scanning for large file transfers from the past week. And I found them. Over the past 5 days, someone had been uploading encrypted files to a cloud storage account I didn't recognize. The uploads happened late at night, after most employees had gone home. The total size was enormous, over 200 gigabytes. The uploads originated from device ID 7744. I checked the registry. Kaysen's laptop. My phone rang, making me jump. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Stop investigating. A man's voice, filtered through a voice modulator to sound robotic. You're playing with things you don't understand. Walk away while you still can. Who is this? Someone who's trying to help you. The project is already gone. You can't recover it, but you can still walk away with your reputation intact if you stop now. My reputation is already destroyed. Kaysen made sure of that. A pause. Kaysen is a small piece of a bigger picture. There are people involved who won't appreciate your interference. People who can make you disappear. The line went dead. I sat there, phone in hand, trying to process what just happened. Was that a real threat? Or was Kaysen just trying to scare me into giving up? Either way, I was too deep to stop now. I spent the next several hours building a comprehensive timeline of everything that had happened. The remote access attempt, the credential theft, the file transfers, the deletion, all of it laid out with timestamps and evidence. Then I did something risky. I created a fake version of the $20 million project file, a decoy. I made it look legitimate, with folders and documents that seemed real but were actually empty shells. Then I uploaded it to a hidden directory on the company server and set up an access alert. If anyone tried to open this fake file, I'd know immediately. Within 30 minutes, the alert triggered. Someone was accessing the decoy file. I checked the access logs. The IP address traced back to the company network. Device ID 7744. Kaysen's laptop. At 9:47 p.m. He was still at the office. He was trying to steal the file again. He didn't realize the original was completely deleted. He thought maybe there was a backup he could grab. But more importantly, this proved he was actively trying to steal company data. This wasn't just about getting rid of me. This was corporate espionage. I recorded a video of the access logs, showing Kaysen's device trying to steal the fake file. Then I copied all my evidence, the crash logs, the network transfers, the credential theft, everything, and uploaded it to 5 different secure locations. Tomorrow, I will take this to the authorities. Not just HR or the company board. The police. This was criminal. But first, I needed one more piece of the puzzle. I needed to know who Kaysen was selling the data to. I went back through the network logs, looking at Kaysen's internet history. Most of it was mundane, emails, web browsing, social media. But there were several encrypted communication sessions with an external server. I couldn't decrypt the messages, but I could see the metadata. The external server belonged to a company called Tech Vanguard Solutions, one of our biggest competitors in the cybersecurity space. Everything clicked into place. Kaysen was selling our $20 million Defense Department contract to Tech Vanguard. If they had our security protocols, encryption keys, and client data, they could undercut our bid and steal the contract. It was worth millions to them, and Kaysen would get a significant payout for delivering the information. But there was a problem. The project manager, me, was too good at my job. I had backups, security measures, and monitoring systems. I would have noticed if files were being stolen. So Kaysen needed to get rid of me first. Discredit me. Frame me for deleting the project. Then, in the chaos that followed, he could claim the company needed to start over, maybe bring in outside consultants to rebuild the project. Consultants who were actually Tech Vanguard employees who would take everything we'd built. It was brilliant, in a sociopathic way. My phone buzzed. A text from Matteo. Troy is freaking out. Just saw him in the parking lot yelling at Kaysen. I couldn't hear everything, but Troy kept saying, "I'm not going to prison for this." Troy was breaking. The plan was falling apart. I texted back, "Did you record it?" Matteo, "Got audio on my phone. Not great quality, but you can hear some of it." "Send it to me. Then get out of there. Don't let them see you." A minute later, my phone pinged with an audio file. I played it, turning the volume up. Troy's voice, high-pitched and panicked, told me it would be simple. "Just a reassignment," you said. "Now there's a forensic investigation and police might get involved." Kaysen's voice, calmer but with an edge. "Keep your voice down, you idiot. Everything is under control." Under control? She has logs. She has evidence. That IT guy is pulling everything. I said I'll handle it. Just stick to the story. You barely touched her computer. You don't know anything about technology. That's all you have to say. What about the money? What about Tech Vanguard? If this investigation finds those transfers. It won't. I used encrypted channels. Untraceable. A pause, then Troy again. "I want out. I'm done. I'll give the money back, You can't get out. You're already in. If I go down, you go down with me. Remember that." Footsteps, then the audio cut off. This was it. This was the confession I needed. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, carrying a folder with printed copies of all my evidence. The parking lot was already full. Word had spread about the investigation, and everyone wanted to know what was happening. As I walked through the lobby, I could feel people staring at me. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked suspicious, like I was a criminal returning to the scene of my crime. Derek from IT met me at the elevator. "The board wants to see you. They've got preliminary findings from the forensic analysis." My heart raced. Already. They brought in an external team that worked through the night. It's pretty serious. We walked to the main conference room. Inside, the entire board was assembled, along with Ms. Patterson from HR, Mr. Brennan, and 2 people I didn't recognize, probably the forensic investigators. Kaysen was there too, sitting confidently with his arms crossed. Troy wasn't present. "Thank you for coming," Mr. Brennan said as I sat down. He looked like he hadn't slept. "We have some findings to share." One of the forensic investigators, a woman with sharp eyes and graying hair, opened her laptop. "Our analysis of the deletion event has revealed several concerning elements. First, the deletion was indeed executed using your credentials, but from a device registered to Troy Bennett." "I already told you that," I said. "Yes. But what you didn't know is that your credentials were accessed from the administrative control panel at 6:20 a.m. by an account belonging to Kaysen Brennan." Everyone turned to look at Kaysen. His confident expression faltered for just a moment. "That doesn't prove anything," he said quickly. "I have admin access. I was checking system security. It's part of my job." "Except," the investigator continued, "you specifically accessed this employee's credentials and no one else's. Then, 12 minutes later, those exact credentials were deployed to Troy Bennett's device through a remote access tool." The room went silent. "Furthermore," the second investigator added, "we found evidence of systematic data exfiltration over the past 5 days. Someone uploaded over 200 gigabytes of encrypted files to an external cloud server. The uploads originated from your laptop, Mr. Brennan." Kaysen's face went red. "That's impossible. Someone must have hacked my computer. Maybe she did it to frame me." "We considered that possibility," the female investigator said. "But the uploads required physical access to your device. They were initiated while the laptop was in your possession, at times when security cameras show you were the only person in your office." Mr. Brennan's face had gone pale. "What files were uploaded?" "We're still decrypting them, but preliminary analysis suggests they're components of the cybersecurity project. Encryption keys, source code, client databases, the most valuable intellectual property your company possesses." "Where were they being uploaded to?" a board member asked. "A server registered to Tech Vanguard Solutions." The room erupted. Board members started talking over each other, demanding explanations. Mr. Brennan just stared at his son with a look of absolute betrayal. "Dad, I can explain," Kaysen started. "Don't," his father said quietly. "Just don't." Ms. Patterson spoke up. "This is beyond internal discipline now. This is corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets. We need to contact law enforcement immediately." "Already done," the female investigator said. "We're legally required to report this level of criminal activity. Detectives are on their way." Kaysen stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly. "This is insane. You're all believing some fabricated evidence from a bitter employee. I'm the victim here. She's the one who deleted the project." "Actually," I said calmly, pulling out my folder, "I have additional evidence you might want to see." I handed copies to everyone at the table. The crash logs from Mateo, the network transfer records, the access logs showing Kaysen trying to steal my decoy file last night, and finally, the audio recording of Kaysen and Troy arguing in the parking lot. "Play the audio," Mr. Brennan said, his voice hollow. I connected my phone to the conference room speakers. Troy's panicked voice filled the room, followed by Kaysen's threats. When it finished, the silence was deafening. That's taken out of context," Kaysen stammered. Troy was confused. He didn't understand what he was saying. "Where is Troy?" Ms. Patterson asked. "I don't know. He's not answering his phone." "That's because he's in the lobby with his lawyer," Derek said from the doorway. "He wants to make a statement." Troy walked into the conference room looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His eyes were red, his suit wrinkled. The lawyer beside him, a sharp-looking woman in her 50s, carried a briefcase. "My client wishes to provide testimony regarding the deletion of the cybersecurity project," the lawyer said. In exchange, we're requesting immunity from prosecution and protection as a corporate witness. Mr. Brennan looked at the forensic investigators. Can we offer that? That's up to the prosecutors, but we can recommend it, especially if his testimony leads to conviction of the primary actor. The lawyer nodded. Then my client will make his statement. Troy sat down, not looking at Kaysen, who had gone deathly quiet. I deleted the file, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But I didn't want to. Kaysen made me do it. Made you? A board member asked. How? He offered me money. A lot of money. $250,000 to help him steal the project and sell it to Tech Vanguard. He said it would be easy. We'd just frame her for deleting it. Then Kaysen would rebuild the project using the stolen data and deliver it to Tech Vanguard. They'd win the defense contract, and we'd get paid. Why did you agree? Mr. Brennan asked, looking disgusted. Troy's voice cracked. I have gambling debts. Serious ones. People were threatening my family. Kaysen knew about it. I told him when we were drunk one night. He said this was my way out. Just one job, and all my problems would go away. Walk us through what happened the morning of the deletion, the female investigator said. Troy took a shaky breath. Kaysen gave me the login credentials the night before. He said they were generic admin credentials. I didn't know they belonged to her specifically. The next morning, Kaysen told me to come in early. He'd already planned the whole thing. What time to arrive, how to sit at her computer, what to say if anyone saw us. At 6:30 a.m., we went to her office. Kaysen unlocked the door with his master key. He told me to sit at her computer and log in using the credentials he gave me. Then he showed me the project file and pointed to the delete button. I hesitated. I asked if this would really work. He said it was foolproof. The deletion would be traced to her account. She'd just been reassigned, so she had motive, and no one would believe her story over the boss's son. So I clicked delete, and then she walked in. Troy put his head in his hands. I panicked. But Kaysen was so calm. He knew exactly what to say, how to spin it. He threatened me in the parking lot last night when I said I wanted to confess. He said if I talked, he'd make sure I went to prison for everything while he walked free. The lawyer placed a hand on Troy's shoulder. My client is prepared to testify to all of this in court. He'll also provide access to his banking records showing the initial payment from Mr. Brennan, as well as text messages and emails coordinating the theft. There's one more thing, Troy said, looking up. The remote access attempt that morning. That was me too. I tried to access the file from the internet cafe like Kaysen told me to, but the firewall blocked it. That's when Kaysen switched to Plan B and stole her admin credentials instead. Kaysen finally spoke, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. You're lying. You're just trying to save yourself by blaming me. I'll sue you for defamation. Enough. Mr. Brennan's voice cut through the room like a knife. I've heard enough. He looked at his son with an expression of complete devastation. I gave you everything, every opportunity, every advantage, and this is what you do. Dad, please, just listen. Security, Mr. Brennan said into the phone on the table. Escort my son from the building. He's no longer an employee of this company. You can't fire me. You need me. Who's going to? Two security officers entered and took Kaysen by the arms. As they led him toward the door, he looked back at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, he hissed. I'll destroy you. You'll never work again. I'll make sure. Mr. Brennan, one of the security officers interrupted. The police are here. Two detectives entered the conference room, badges displayed. They introduced themselves as Detective Martinez and Detective Cole from the Cybercrime Division. We've been briefed on the situation, Detective Martinez said. We're going to need to take statements from everyone involved, and we'll need to seize several devices as evidence. They read Kaysen his rights and placed him under arrest for corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets, and computer fraud. Kaysen's confident mask finally shattered completely. He started crying, begging his father to help him, to call a lawyer, to fix this. Mr. Brennan just turned away. Troy was also taken into custody, though his lawyer assured him the immunity deal would likely go through given his cooperation. As they were let out, Detective Cole approached me. "We'll need your statement as well, Ms." "Of course. I have extensive documentation of everything that happened." I handed him a USB drive. Timeline, evidence, audio recordings, network logs, everything. He raised his eyebrows. "You've been thorough." I had to be. No one else was going to believe me otherwise. Over the next few hours, I gave my complete statement to the detectives. They were particularly interested in the evidence I'd gathered independently, though Detective Martinez did give me a gentle lecture about not conducting my own investigation in the future. "You should have come to us immediately," he said. "What you did was dangerous. If Kaysen was working with serious criminals, you could have been hurt." "I know. But I needed proof first. Without it, it would have been my word against the boss's son." He nodded, understanding. "Well, thanks to your documentation, we have an airtight case. This is going to trial, and it's going to stick." The story exploded across the local news. Tech company Air arrested for corporate espionage. The industry blogs picked it up. Then the national news. Within 48 hours, everyone in the cybersecurity world knew what Kaysen had tried to do. Tech Vanguard Solutions released a statement claiming they had no knowledge of Kaysen's criminal activities and were cooperating fully with the investigation. Several of their executives were also questioned. I spent those 2 days at home, watching the news coverage, answering calls from lawyers and investigators. The company's legal team assured me that all charges against me were dropped and my suspension was lifted. But I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. Then I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Hello. Is this the woman who took down Kaysen Brennan?" a man's voice asked. Not threatening, curious, even impressed. "Who is this?" "My name is Harold Halden. I founded the company you work for. Well, that I used to own before Brennan bought me out. I saw the news, and I'd very much like to speak with you. Would you be willing to meet for coffee?" Halden. The name was legendary in our company. He'd started it in his garage 30 years ago and built it into an industry leader before selling majority shares to Brennan 6 months ago. "Why do you want to meet with me?" "Because you're exactly the kind of person I need. And because what happened to you almost happened to me. Kaysen tried to force me out too, just in a different way. I think we have a lot to talk about." My curiosity got the better of me. "Okay. When and where?" We met at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. Halden was in his early 70s, with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. He bought us both coffee and led me to a corner table. "Thank you for meeting with me," he said. "I've been following your situation closely." "Very closely. How much do you know?" "Everything that's been made public, and a bit more. I still have friends at the company who keep me informed." He sipped his coffee. "Kaysen tried the same thing with me, you know. Not exactly the same, but similar tactics. Undermining my authority, spreading rumors about my competence, trying to force me into early retirement so he could take full control." "Why would he do that?" "Because his father, Marcus Brennan, is a decent man but a terrible judge of character. He bought into the company believing his son could learn the business and eventually take over. What he didn't realize is that Kaysen has no interest in running a legitimate company. He only wants to strip valuable assets and sell them." "You knew he was dangerous?" "I suspected, but I had no proof, and Marcus wouldn't hear a word against his son. So I sold my shares and got out before things got worse. I thought I was done with that company. He paused. Then I saw what Kaysen did to you, and I realized I'd made a mistake by walking away. I should have fought harder. It's not your fault, I said. Kaysen was careful. He planned everything perfectly. Except he didn't count on you fighting back. Most people would have accepted the suspension and moved on. But you gathered evidence, built a case, exposed him. That takes intelligence and courage. I felt my face flush. I just didn't want to lose my career over something I didn't do. It's more than that, Halden said, leaning forward. You understand something fundamental about leadership. You don't give up when things get hard, and you don't let injustice stand. Those are rare qualities. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a fireproof lockbox. I want to show you something. Inside the box was an external hard drive. Before I left the company, I made offline backups of every major project, including your $20 million cybersecurity contract. Every file, every line of code, every security protocol, it's all here. My heart skipped. You have a complete backup? Yes. I knew Kaysen would eventually try something like this. I couldn't stop him, but I could preserve the work of good people like you. He pushed the lockbox toward me. This is yours now. The project can be rebuilt. I stared at the hard drive, overwhelmed. Why didn't you come forward earlier, when the file was first deleted? Because timing matters. If I'd revealed this immediately, Kaysen would have claimed the backup was fake, or that you'd stolen it, or some other lie. But now that he's been arrested and Troy has confessed, this backup becomes legitimate evidence that the project was never truly lost. It proves you were competent and professional, maintaining proper security measures. He was right. If he'd shown up earlier, it might have helped Kaysen's defense, made it look like I had access to secret backups that I could have used to frame him. What do you want in return? I asked carefully. I want you to help me build something new. I'm starting a new company, smaller, more focused on next-generation security. I need someone I can trust to lead the technical division. Someone who won't sell out, who won't compromise on ethics, who actually cares about the work. He met my eyes. I want you to be that person. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. You don't have to decide now. But I've been in this industry for 40 years, and I've learned to recognize exceptional talent when I see it. You're not just a good engineer, you're a natural leader. Over the next week, the criminal case against Kaysen moved forward rapidly. Prosecutors charged him with multiple felonies: theft of trade secrets, computer fraud, corporate espionage, conspiracy, and extortion. Troy's immunity deal went through, and he testified in grand jury proceedings, providing detailed accounts of everything Kaysen had planned. Financial investigators found the offshore accounts where Kaysen had hidden the $50,000 down payment from TechVanguard, along with email evidence showing he expected to receive $5 million once the full data transfer was complete. TechVanguard's CEO was also implicated. He claimed ignorance, but emails proved he knew the data was stolen. His company faced massive fines and legal action from our company. Meanwhile, I returned to work. The atmosphere was surreal. People who'd avoided me now congratulated me. Executives who'd suspected me now apologized. I was invited to meetings with the board, where they discussed rebuilding the $20 million project. That's when I presented Halden's backup drive. The room went silent as I explained that a complete backup existed, preserved by the company's founder. Derek verified the data. Everything was intact, perfectly preserved, ready to be restored. This is incredible, Mr. Brennan said, looking like he might cry. The Defense Department was about to cancel our contract. But if we can restore the project fully, we might save it. We can, I confirmed. With the proper team and resources, we can have everything operational within 2 weeks. The board voted unanimously to restore me to my position as lead engineer, with a substantial raise and a formal apology for the suspension. But as I sat in that meeting, listening to them plan the project's restoration, I realized something. I didn't want to stay. The company had failed me when I needed them most. They'd been ready to believe I sabotaged my own project without conducting a proper investigation. They'd sided with the boss's son over their most experienced engineer, based solely on politics and appearances. Yes, they'd eventually found the truth. Yes, they'd apologized. But the damage was done. I couldn't trust them anymore. After the meeting, I met with Mr. Brennan privately in his office. "I want to thank you," he said, "for everything you've done, for fighting for the truth, for preserving the evidence, for saving the project. Because of you, this company has a future." "I appreciate that," I said carefully, "but I need to be honest with you. I'm considering other opportunities." His face fell. "You're leaving." "I'm thinking about it. Harold Halden offered me a position with his new company." "Leading what? Some startup?" "You're at the top of your field here. You could become CTO within a few years." "We could." "It's not about the title or the money," I interrupted. "It's about trust. When Kaysen framed me, this company was ready to throw me away without a real investigation. I had to prove my innocence on my own, with no support from anyone except a junior developer who risked his job to help me." Mr. Brennan was quiet for a long moment. "You're right," he finally said. "We failed you. I failed you. I was so caught up in trying to make things work with my son that I ignored warning signs, dismissed concerns, and allowed a toxic situation to develop." "I understand why." "No, let me finish. My son is a criminal. He's going to prison, and he deserves it. But I created the environment that allowed him to operate. I gave him power he hadn't earned, authority he wasn't qualified for. And when he abused that power, I was too blind to see it until it was almost too late." He leaned forward, looking older than his years. "If you leave, I'll understand. You owe this company nothing. But I want you to know that things are going to change. No more nepotism. No more politics over merit. I'm bringing in new management, establishing ethics committees, creating proper oversight." "I believe you," I said. "But those changes should have already existed. And even with changes, I'm not sure I can work somewhere that was so quick to doubt me." "Then I won't try to convince you to stay," Mr. Brennan said. "But I will ask one favor. Help us restore the project. Train your replacement. Make sure the defense contract is fulfilled. Then, if you still want to leave, you'll go with my full blessing and the best recommendation I can write." It was a fair request. The project was still partially mine, and the Defense Department contract was important, not just for the company but for national security. 2 months, I said. "I'll stay for 2 months to ensure the transition is smooth. Then I'm taking Halden's offer." Mr. Brennan nodded sadly. "Thank you. That's more than we deserve." That evening, I called Halden and told him about my decision. "Take the time you need," he said. "We're still in the early planning stages. But I'm glad you're joining us. I have big plans, and I think you're going to be excited when you hear them." "What kind of plans?" "Let's just say that $20 million project you built? That's going to look like a proof of concept compared to what we're going to do. I've been in talks with several government agencies and major corporations. They want next-generation security, and they're willing to pay for the best. You'll be building the most advanced cybersecurity infrastructure in the industry." My pulse quickened. This was exactly what I'd always wanted, the chance to work on cutting-edge projects without bureaucracy or politics getting in the way. "There's something else," Halden continued. "I'm not building this company to run it forever. I'm 73 years old. In 3 years, I want to retire for real this time. And I need someone to take over. You have succession plans, right? Yes. You. I nearly dropped my phone. What? I want you to become CEO in training, Halden explained. You'll start as Director of Cybersecurity, leading the technical division. But over the next 3 years, I'll teach you everything about running a company: finance, operations, strategy, business development. When I retire, you'll take over as CEO. That's insane. I'm an engineer, not a business executive. The best CEOs in tech started as engineers. They understand the product, the technology, the innovation. The business skills can be learned. But the integrity, the work ethic, the commitment to excellence, those are innate. And you have them. I need time to think about this. Of course. But think about this too. Kaysen tried to destroy you because you were good at your job. He saw you as an obstacle to his schemes. That tells me you're exactly the kind of person who should be leading companies, not people like him. After we hung up, I sat on my couch for a long time, processing everything. 6 months ago, I was a mid-level engineer, content with my work, not thinking about leadership or management. Now I was being offered a path to CEO of a cutting-edge tech company. It was terrifying, but also exhilarating. The trial began 2 months later. I'd spent that time successfully restoring the $20 million project, training my replacement, a brilliant young engineer named Sarah, and preparing to transition to Halden's company. On the day I testified, the courthouse was packed with media and industry observers. Kaysen sat at the defense table looking pale and defeated. His expensive legal team had tried every tactic to dismiss the charges, but the evidence was overwhelming. I took the stand and told my story. The theft of my credentials, the planned deletion, the attempted frame-up, the evidence I'd gathered. All of it laid out clearly and calmly. Kaysen's lawyer tried to discredit me during cross-examination, suggesting I'd fabricated evidence to cover my own mistakes. But every question he asked, I had documentation to answer. Logs, timestamps, audio recordings, network traces. Troy testified next, providing even more damaging details. He described how Kaysen had planned the scheme for months, how he'd specifically researched ways to steal company data without detection, how he'd negotiated with Tech Vanguard executives to sell the stolen information. The forensic investigators testified about the technical evidence. The IT manager confirmed the timeline. Even some of Kaysen's old college friends testified that he'd always talked about making easy money through corporate espionage. The prosecution's case was airtight. After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. They found Kaysen guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge was harsh. You betrayed your father's trust, betrayed your company, and attempted to destroy an innocent woman's career to cover your crimes. You showed no remorse, no accountability, only entitlement and arrogance. Kaysen was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, ordered to pay $5 million in restitution to the company, and banned from working in the technology industry for life after his release. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked at me one final time. But there was no hatred now. Just emptiness. Defeat. I felt no satisfaction, no triumph. Just relief that it was finally over. My last day at the old company was bittersweet. Colleagues threw me a going-away party in the break room. Even Mr. Brennan attended, giving a speech about my contributions and wishing me success. Matteo approached me near the end. I wanted to thank you, he said, for including me in your testimony. The board gave me a promotion. Apparently I showed good judgment and initiative. You deserved it. You took a real risk to help me. You would have done the same for anyone. He smiled. That's why you're going to be a great CEO someday. The next morning, I arrived at Halden's new office. A modern space in a tech park, with floor-to-ceiling windows and cutting-edge equipment. A sign outside read, Sentinel Defense Systems. My office was on the top floor, with a view of the entire city. On my desk was an envelope with my name on it. Inside was a formal contract, Director of Cybersecurity, with a path to CEO within 3 years. Also in the envelope was a handwritten note from Halden. 6 months ago, Kaysen tried to end your career because he saw you as an obstacle. He was wrong about many things, but he was right about one. You were an obstacle. An obstacle to corruption, to incompetence, to people who think they can cheat their way to success. I've spent 40 years building companies and watching people. I've learned that true leadership isn't about power or authority, it's about integrity under pressure. It's about doing the right thing when doing the wrong thing would be easier. You proved you have that integrity. Now I want to see what you'll do with real resources and real authority. Welcome to Sentinel Defense Systems. Let's build something extraordinary. Harold. I stood at my office window, looking out at the city. 6 months ago, I'd walked into my office and found Kaysen sitting in my chair, ready to steal everything I'd built. He'd tried to destroy me because I was good at my job, because I was honest, because I wouldn't compromise or look the other way. Instead, he'd accidentally launched me towards something far greater than what I'd had before. The $20 million project, the one Kaysen tried to steal, was just the beginning. Halden had already secured contracts worth $50 million for Sentinel Defense Systems. Major corporations wanted our security protocols. Government agencies wanted our encryption systems, and I would be leading it all. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Kaysen Brennan begins 8-year prison sentence for corporate espionage. I closed the alert without reading further. Kaysen was the past. This, Sentinel Defense Systems, my new team, the cutting-edge projects waiting to be built, this was the future. A future I'd almost lost, but fought to reclaim. A future I'd earned through intelligence, perseverance, and refusing to back down when powerful people tried to silence me. I turned away from the window and sat at my desk. My team would arrive soon. 10 brilliant engineers I'd personally recruited, people who shared my values and vision. We had work to do. 3 years from now, I'd become CEO of a company building the world's most advanced cybersecurity systems. Not because of politics or connections or whose child I was, because I'd proven I deserved it. Kaysen tried to erase me from the story. Instead, he made me the hero of it. And that, I realized, was the sweetest justice of all.